The aerobic energy system is this system which can sustain exercise for the longest period. For example, after the use of ATP and ATP systems, a marathon runner would instantly use their aerobic energy so that they can go the whole race without tiring and keep a constant supply of large glycogen stores to sufficiently fuel their working muscles. The aerobic energy system starts in system of resynthesizing ATP with the stage of aerobic glycolysis. This consists of the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase causing the conversion of glycogen into glucose. After this conversion, the enzyme phosphofructokinase enzyme is stimulated to start the production of pyruvic acid. The pyruvic acid then forms a phosphate molecule to form 2 moles of ATP to provide to the working muscles. However, the pyruvic acid then comes together with an additional enzyme called coenzyme A. This produces the enzyme of acetyl-CoA to initiate the next stage of aerobic energy system. The next stage of the system is called the Krebs cycle, and this is initiated by the process of acetyl-CoA molecule with L-oxalacetic acid to form citric acid. Citric acid then forms the Krebs cycle, which is the creation of L-oxalacetic acid, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and 2 moles of ATP. The final stage of the aerobic energy system is where the electron carriers of NAD and FAD join separately with hydrogen. Also, according to differencebetween.net, FAD is flavin adenine dinucleotide, and NAD is nicotinamide adenine. This will then produce NADA and FADA to initiate the electron transport chain. This is where the positively charged hydrogen ions produce H2O, otherwise known as water, and the negatively charged hydrogen electron ions to produce 30 molecules of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This production of ATP molecules will provide the essential energy for the working muscles of the body whilst working in steady-state exercise. As a result of these stages, carbon dioxide and hydrogen are produced as byproducts along with the production of 34 ATP molecules in total, which was to provide energy for the muscles. The muscle spindle is a part of the neuromuscular system, and its main use is to prevent injury during muscle movement and therefore acts as a proprioceptor. This part of the neuromuscular system is in the skeletal muscles of the body, like the bicep brachia or triceps brachia. This way in which this works is when a muscle is stretched due to a movement. The muscle spindle detects this increase in muscle length and sends an impulse to the spinal cord. Although usually the impulse would be sent to the brain or CNS, central nervous system, the muscle spindle needs to be stimulated into a quick action. This will therefore increase the chance of the muscle being prevented from injury, as there will be less time for injury to occur. However, once the impulses reach the spinal cord, a secondary set of sensors send information to the CNS regarding the extent of the increase in muscle length. This information will be sent through the body and to the relevant motor neuron in order to cause the muscle contraction prevent any more increase in length. However, the muscle spindle could also cause the muscle spindle, or the muscle which is protagonist to the muscle, increasing in length. For example, during a steady-state exercise like a swim, the bicep brachia may be increasing in length to a harmful degree. However, the muscle spindle will initiate the process of the CNS, causing the triceps brachia to contract and therefore create a force greater than what the bicep is exerting to stop the bicep from moving any further. Therefore, the bicep would be prevented from potential injury, like a muscle tear, due to the force from the tricep acting as a barrier against it. The Golgi tendon is like the muscle spindle in terms of preventing injury to the working muscle need for exercise. However, instead of measuring the degree of muscles change in size, the Golgi tendon detects tension change in the muscle so that the motor neuron can act against it. This therefore prevents injury because an extreme amount of tension on the muscle eventually causes severe tissue damage. The way in this which works the Golgi tendon functions is by acting as a proprioceptor and sending information to the CNS about the tension on the muscle. The Golgi tendon therefore stimulates the muscle to relax itself before the muscle is damaged as a result of the tension. For example, if the Golgi tendon detects a large amount of pressure on the quadricep muscle during steady-state exercise, then the Golgi tendon will initiate the muscle to relax. Therefore, the tension is decreased on the muscle and injury is prevented. However, during steady-state exercise, it's unlikely that a great amount of tension would be forced onto a muscle due to the low intensity levels that the muscle have to work at. Firstly, in regards to the oxygen dissociation curve, hemoglobin is the primary source of transportation of blood as it is circulated around the body, from the lungs to the working muscles. On every molecule of hemoglobin, there are 4 spaces for an oxygen molecule to be fixed on and therefore transported. However, as more spaces are taken up on the hemoglobin, this increases the chance for more oxygen to bind with that hemoglobin. As a result of this, the affinity for oxygen increases as another oxygen molecule binds with hemoglobin. Once all the sources have taken up the hemoglobin has become saturated, The hemoglobin has become saturated. Due to this, the higher the partial pressure between the alveoli and the blood capillaries, the more saturated the hemoglobin will become. Therefore, the oxygen dissociation curve is where, according to Webster.com, a curve determined by a plotting on a graph and partial pressure of oxygen in the blood as the abscissa curve and the percentage of hemoglobin combined with oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin as the coordinate. However, factors such as an increase in carbon dioxide, blood acidity, exercise, and temperature lead to a decrease in affinity for oxygen forming with the hemoglobin. The types of hypotheses are null-tailed, a hypothesis where the statement predicts a result which matches the description of the average of normative data or normative data. Two-tailed, a hypothesis where the statement predicts the result where will either be above or below either side of the average, therefore predicting against the average data. Single-tailed hypothesis, a hypothesis where the result is predicted to be one side against the average data. However, this hypothesis doesn't predict for one of the two results and instead predicts one against the average. Steady-state results: breathing rate, heart rate, blood pressure, Borg scale, RPE, blood lactate levels, and oxygen saturation. Some method. A hypothesis for the cardiovascular system, respiratory system, energy system. We expect that there will be a slight increase in heart rate before the exercise is started. Then once the steady state exercise is initiated, there will be a gradual increase in heart rate, and then a steady out heart rate as a plateau throughout the rest of the exercise, whilst ending with a rapid decrease. For the test, we took the heart rate of each participant to achieve the understanding and the participant heart rate during possible anticipated rise. Also, during exercise, we will record the heart rate once every minute using the heart rate monitor. This is so that an accurate progression of heart rate can be recorded and evaluated to see how hard the subject is working. Finally, the heart rate will be recorded 1 to 3 minutes faster than the participant after the participant has finished exercise to record data on their recovery. Due to the process of anticipated rise, Billy, Rachel and Luke's heart rate will increase to an extent compared to their resting heart rate. This matches the hypothesis where we expect that there will be a slight increase in heart rate before the exercise has started. As sensory neurons of the body detect an emotional change, impulses will be sent to the central nervous system to stimulate the adrenal gland to release the hormone adrenaline. The hormone will then act as a chemical messenger to cause the sympathetic nervous system in the cardiac control center to cause the SA node of the heart to cause a contraction at a higher rate, therefore preparing the body for exercise due to contributing to a higher cardiac output along with stroke volume, and increase the amount of blood flow to eventually working muscles. However, we can see this biggest effect in the anticipated rise in Rachel's results. She started with a heart rate of 128, whereas Billy had 95 BPM and Luke with 90. This therefore shows the anticipated rise has taken an effect on all participants, as the average resting heart rate for a 17-year-old is 60 to 80 BPM. As all of the heart rates is already significantly above this, we can assume that they all underwent anticipated rise before exercise. However, as each participant had started their their steady state exercise, one of their heart rates increased in different. Each one of their heart rates increased to a different extent. For example, Billy's heart rate increased 180 BPM after 10 minutes of steady exercise. Similarly, Rachel's heart rate also increased to around Billy's heart rate at 186 BPM after 8 minutes of exercise. Whereas Luke's heart rate did increase, but not to the extent at which the other participant did. It's because at 10-minute mark of exercise, he had an increased heart rate of only 153 BPM. However, the reason why this increase occurred was due to an increase in receptors around the body, detecting more changes to the body as a result of steady state exercise. For example, as Billy started to exercise, the proprioceptors in his muscles detect an increase in movement, and therefore the working muscle needs to be supplied more oxygen via more blood. Hence, force from the proprioceptors sending signals to the CCC to stimulate the SA node to contract the heart rate at a quicker rate, and with the help of the sympathetic nervous system. This would also happen in This would also happen via the vascular shunt. This would also happen in Rachel and Luke's body, which would also account for their increase in heart rate additionally. However, Billy's and Rachel's heart rate increase to an abnormal amount is based on their age and average data. Their target heart rate should be from 150 to 165 BPM. Because the heart rate was increased higher than this range, it is clear that an abnormality has been indicated. This could be due to the method being used during the test being carried out incorrectly, and therefore forcing the participant to be working at a steady state to be working at steady state and pushing their heart rate to work at an aerobic exercise, where the body doesn't use oxygen as a primary source of energy for their working muscles, which increases heart rate to an even higher extent to compensate for the lack of oxygen. However, this high increase in heart rate could also be due to health conditions which would cause the heart rate to need to be at a higher rate. For example, an underactive thyroid causes OBLA to occur much more quickly, and therefore heart rate will need to increase to compensate for this. Whereas Luke's heart rate increased to the target heart range, which we would expect of him. This would justify that the method was carried out correctly and Luke's cardiovascular system is in a healthy condition. Once Luke's heart rate has reached a BPM of 161 after 12 minutes of exercise, it then reaches a point of plateau for the remainder of the exercise, where the heart rate stays at the same level. This is due to Luke's current heart rate not needing to increase anymore, as it providing the sufficient contribution to cardiac output during steady state exercise. This is sufficient because of the low level intensity which steady state exercise requires as a result of the heart rate. As a result of this, the heart rate sustains its current heart rate and doesn't increase anymore. Similarly, Rachel's heart rate also plateaued after reaching a heart rate of 186 BPM after 10 minutes of exercise. This is due to the heart rate not being anticipated to increase anymore, as the body's working muscles are being provided with a sustainable amount of blood for the current intensity. However, Rachel's data once again provides an abnormality to our data, as her heart rate plateau at such a high rate above her target heart rate zone. Although the plateau of the heart rate had been correctly predicted in the hypothesis, the method carried out may have been done incorrectly and forced Rachel to work at intensity much higher than steady-state exercise requires. Another piece of data which could be seen as abnormality when compared to normative data is Billy's heart rate during this period, where the heart rate should plateau. This is because once reaching a heart rate of 180 at 10 minutes, instead of plateauing at a steady rate, the heart rate instantly decreases down to 115 BPM after 14 minutes of exercise. Following the heart rate then increased to 165 BPM after 18 minutes of exercise. This abnormal staggering data could be due to the incorrect attempt to carry out the method experiment, which would be similar to Rachel in the sense of forcing the participant into an anaerobic state of exercise. However, this plateau that Luke especially encountered could also be due to the vascular shunt, which redirects the blood flow to non-essential muscles for this exercise, which has been recorded and detected by the proprioceptors in the working muscles. This will allow the heart rate to decrease as less blood needs to be pumped around the body to all the working muscles. Now the heart has to only pump blood to the appropriate working muscles like the quadriceps. Finally, once the participants eventually stop exercising after 20 minutes of steady-state exercise, the heart rate began its recovery, with Billy's decreasing by 16, Rachel's decreasing by 12, and Luke's decreasing by 8. This is due to the working muscles not needing to be supplied as much blood, which was needed during the exercise. As a result of this, the heart is stimulated by the parasympathetic nervous system in the CCC to decrease its rate of contraction via the SA node. This indication is made by the proprioceptors of the muscles detecting a low amount of movement, and therefore indicating that blood to be supplied to them at a lower and less efficient rate.